So, Kevin played against Christopher Yu, and this was a really recent game, played just a few weeks ago, in fact. So, just to give you an idea how this is going to look like. And actually this is the only game we're going to analyze today, because two of the other people I expected games from couldn't send them in time, I assume. So we can focus on this one alone, but it's a great game. So, you know, we have plenty in store today. So how this is going to look like, I will not focus too much on the white moves. I'm only focusing on Kevin's game, and Kevin was playing with the black pieces. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And so sometimes I'm going to show some lines because they're really beautiful. But most of the time I'm not really going to deconstruct the game that much. Not explain, for example, what the other side is doing, but really focus on areas of improvement. I mean, this is what it's all about. To help Kevin improve his game, to know where he can work on in the future, even though this game, I can say that much, was not too much to criticize. All right, so let's get started. 1e4, and let's see what Kevin writes. Apparently Christopher Yu holds the youngest current record for UCF Master at 9 years of age. Yeah, I've heard of Christopher. He's really strong talent. I know he's very talented and had lost to him 8 months prior. As this was a team tournament, I felt a draw of the black piece would be a good result. Also, given that I think he is high rated than you at the time, certainly a draw would be okay with black, but I don't know if it's a good idea to think of a draw already from the very beginning. I mean, this is my approach, and we'll also get to this in a few moves. Just play and see what happens, right? And not think too much about the result. So we go through the first move. It's a Royal Lopez, and here you play the sideline with d6. I cannot say too much about it. I mean, you probably know that this is not known to be one of the most critical lines, let's put it like that. This is known to give white an advantage here. So this is up to you if you want to play this, if you feel comfortable here. But in general, I would advise you to play, I guess, one of the main lines. So play knight f6, and then you have a huge variety of choices. Obviously, after castle, ranging from the Marshall to the Aichengalsk, and you name it, right? There are plenty of Spanish Royal Lopez variations, which are very playable. And this is not saying d6 is not playable, but I think there are better moves out there. So d6, now I guess bishop takes c6, b takes, d4, f6, knight c3, g6, and here you're writing offer the draw here, fully aware that Christopher would decline. But my goal is to make him play for a win, possibly overreach. This is a little known solid system, which is not my aggressive normal style. However, versus a talented young player, I wanted something solid and slightly. Okay, let me say something about the first part first. You offer the draw here, and this you're describing this as kind of a tactical draw offer, which is a technique for all of you guys out there to offer a draw, because you're expecting your opponent to decline it and then overstretch, like Kevin is saying. But in this position, it seems not appropriate for me at all. I mean, honestly, if I was playing white, I would feel almost offended by a draw. I would be very surprised, because I'm playing with the white pieces, first of all, and I'm also the higher rated player, or Christopher was the higher rated player. So a draw offer after 7 moves would just be strange to me. Because, I mean, why would I make a draw, right? And you're not really, I don't think in any way you are tempting him to overstretch. I mean, nothing has happened. There is no way for white right now to overstretch or take any big risks. I mean, nothing has really happened in this game so far. And also, you have to consider with offering a draw like that there's a possibility that your opponent actually accepts. And yes, a draw would be okay result also in terms of a team competition, but you also have to look at what you lose when you make a draw so quickly. You lose the opportunity to play a full game, gain a lot of experience, have a training effect. I mean, there's nothing better than playing games to become better, to train. So I would be very careful with these draw offers. I mean, this is my approach. I've been playing like this my whole life, fighting all games till the end pretty much, and always having this approach. Playing, because this is going to give me most experience, and then this will benefit me in the long run. Alright, so that's all I want to say about that. And then the second part, to play something solo against a young talented player is a very good idea indeed. And I think it was a good opening choice actually, also how this game is continuing. I think that makes a lot of sense. By the way, I'm not keeping an eye on the chat at all times because I have this in like full screen mode. So I will check periodically maybe. So Kevin, if you want to write something there, you can. I'm gonna check it every once in a while. And also I see Lucas is in the chat. Lucas Clear, welcome. Also somebody I know from one of my supporters. All right, so let's keep going. Knight h6, h3, rook b8. Thematic, but played under the thought that white would need to play b3. And he replied with queen d2. So it seemed to just that you maybe played too quickly, I don't know exactly, or that you just didn't consider the candidate moves of your opponent. So that's something we all, I think, are guilty of, not really checking all our opponent's options. And here you miss this idea of white going queen d2 and castle. But honestly, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not like this rook is ever misplaced on the b file. But what I can say is that I think in general it makes more sense in the opening to follow these golden rules, these golden opening rules, and that is first castle and develop your pieces and then move the other piece. So bishop g7 or knight f7 certainly looks very sensible here. But rook b8, I mean, it's not really damaging anything anyway. It's just about this principle, recognizing what my opponent can do. I mean, this is what I've been guilty of in my last tournament as well, and something I need to work on as well. Just continuously asking yourself, and that's maybe a technique you can use, what am I missing maybe, or what other moves can my opponent play? Maybe what other moves can my opponent play? Maybe this is the right question to ask your brain to prompt you to find these other moves. And then if you go rook b8 and you're like, what other moves can he play? Okay, he can play rook b1. Okay, I'm not afraid of this. Is there anything else? Queen c1? Well, that protects a pawn and also hits the knight. And then maybe you come to a conclusion, oh, he can also go queen d2, hitting the knight on h6. All right, so queen d2, knight f7, castle, bishop g7, queen d3, castle, takes, queen c4, queen e8. Yes, I offered another draw at this moment. Why? I mean, well, I mean, okay, here I have a personal opinion again. I think it's not appropriate to offer a draw twice, unless in between your opponent has offered a draw again. So if you offer one, your opponent offers one, then you can offer one again. Because otherwise it's just like, I mean, to me, of course I have to say, it feels like disturbing my opponent. Because if he has declined a draw a few moves earlier, then why would he change his mind so quickly? Or, I mean, if he changed his mind, he would probably offer a draw, right? So, and then, I mean, we have already talked about it. I guess it's a sensitive topic for me, but I think for most people, they don't consider it appropriate to offer a draw twice in a row if your opponent hasn't offered a draw himself in between. All right, and now he played h4. Okay. Maybe here we see maybe I'm all wrong, you know, maybe your tactic is just working perfectly, you just keep offering draws and he's getting annoyed and he's like, now I'm gonna crush you and then you're gonna counter him. Who knows? Anyways, so this is an interesting moment in the game. Now you played h5 to stop h5 from him. You're asking, playing overly safe. And yeah, I did not like this move h5. What I don't like about it is that you give up the square on g5 for the white pieces. You just weaken the square considerably in the long term, right? He can put his knight, he can put his bishop, and it just doesn't feel right for me. It doesn't feel right for me to play this move. And you pointed out some alternatives yourself, like bishop e6, which is interesting, definitely. But I think if you are afraid of h5, a move that looks very natural to me, and I don't know if you considered it, is to just go h6. And if white now goes h5, then go g5, and nothing is going to happen here. I mean, maybe sometimes you have to look out for a sacrifice, but if it isn't working right now, you can just sidestep with the king, and it's all good. And I don't think it's working right now. I mean, you just take, and what now? Knight takes g5, bishop h6, h6, just bishop f6. No, this is not working. So I think h6 makes a lot of sense. And the other move that really comes to mind to me, I don't know which one I would choose, maybe just h6, I don't know. But the other move, besides bishop e6, which also looks good, bishop g4 also makes a lot of sense, because white has weakened the square right now. And you're stopping h5, you're pinning this knight. Of course you need to check what happens if white takes his pawn, but does white really want to take this pawn? I mean, you could go rook e8, queen d3, and now the computer gives d5. But even if you don't play like very concrete chess and play some like queen b8 or maybe rook a5, like white doesn't want to play this. I mean, he has no counterplay here really, because the bishop is perfectly placed, and you bring the queen over, you bring the rook over, play on the open files. This looks just, in a practical game, just horrible for white. So I'm curious where the mistake came from. I mean, this is always the question I'm asking with h5. Maybe you didn't consider this weakness on g5 that much of a problem, or maybe you didn't consider the other moves that you have available. I mean, looking at h6 and bishop g4, where you don't have any drawbacks, stopping h5 just make a lot of sense to me. So I can't really say here where this is coming from, but probably it's going more in the positional direction. All right, so let's keep going. h5, knight g5. Now a5, the idea of rook b4, and also the pawn was hanging in some lines, so that's all good. King h8 going out of the pin, f3, takes, bishop e6, queen e2, queen f7. That all makes a lot of sense to me. And now he played rook to h4. Now king g8 also makes a lot of sense to go out of g4, just in case. Nice prophylactic move. Rook dh1. I was sure I was better here, as my king's very safe. White will need to sack a pawn to open the h-file, and even then I can't be mated by rooks alone with my bishop on g7. But I thought doubling the rooks on the b-file seemed too slow. Then I saw d5, and yeah, d5 is a really interesting move. But as you pointed out, bishop c4 followed by d5 would have been even better. I mean, these are nuances, and the computer shows us this, and it's not easy to see really, but of course we want to try to see everything. And well, so let's point it out for everybody real quick. So Kevin played d5, and after d5 white now went bishop c5, which was a mistake. Instead white could have played bishop a7 first, and if the rook now goes to somewhere else, leaving the b-file, then bishop c5, and obviously white has improved. But if black plays rook b7, now white has this move available, queen a6, which isn't possible with the bishop on c4, obviously. And now after bishop c8, white is kind of getting away here. I mean, this is strange, but somehow his pieces are well in the game now, and rook takes b2, for example, doesn't work. White can just move the queen and both rooks are hanging, and white is not doing too badly here anymore. So I think it comes back to this idea of candidate moves, the more I think about it, that you probably saw, of course you saw bishop c5, but you maybe didn't see this idea of bishop a7 followed by queen a6. And of course we cannot see everything, but well, we try to. It's hard. It is hard. And Kevin says he looked at bishop e6 and bishop g4, but I was not 100% confident in myself giving up a pawn. All right, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, absolutely. But like this, what we saw earlier, having two open files against the king, I mean, it is promising. And then also, yeah, maybe if you see this move h6, and now you'll certainly remember it for the future to answer h5 with g5, then if you see that one, then that is a safe move to make and stops the white attack pretty much right away, I feel like, yeah. Okay. So let's keep going here. d5. Now your opponent didn't play bishop a7, but bishop c5. Now d4. Very nice. Bishop takes f4. There's b takes d takes c3. So knight to d1. And now bishop c4, okay, hitting the queen. Queen d2, and now rook fe8. And that was, when I looked through the game, that was an odd move. Because I didn't really understand what your idea was. I mean, you write, I want to guard the e7 square in case a black queen ventures to c4 to trap the c5 bishop. But you still need time to get to c4. And also, I don't know, well, you saw this as well, but rook b5 is the move that you want to play next. I mean, this is the quickest way to attack the bishop right now. I mean, to get queen c4, and you first have to move this bishop, so you need more time. But rook b5 is the threat right now. So now it's very simple. How can white cope with this threat? And in the game, he played a4, right, to give his bishop space. And then we'll see that the rook would be actually just much better placed on d8. Because, yeah, the rook is just not doing anything here. I mean, it's covering the e7 square, but I guess this whole plan, bringing the queen to c4, was maybe the wrong idea. So... yeah, rook fd8, and now, I mean, you write it here, if now, well, I mean, the difference is, if now a4, I mean, this is the difference. If this is what we can do in our own games, if we have two moves and we're just not sure which one to pick, then we just need to keep searching for where could be a difference, where could be one benefit for one move over the other. So in this case, after a4, now d3 is very strong, and we see how this rook is just perfectly placed. Of course, if white takes, I mean, this is game over, but really it's game over for whitey anyway. I mean, pretty much all the black pieces except for his bishop are attacking the white king. And if c3, now the bishop just sidesteps to a6, opening up the queen comes in, and it's just... white is going to be dismantled here. Bishop c4, queen a2, completely game over. Such a strong attack here. I mean, of course, this one's also hanging. So, yeah. You said that during the game you thought about g4, and then rook b5, bishop a7, rook a8, and you saw this line, you thought a4 is allowing white to get the bishop out again, which is true, but in the meantime you pick up the pawn, and yeah, I mean, this requires some deep calculation, of course. You need to see it till now and then also realize, okay, it goes on, bishop f4 here, or I mean, here it's several moves, rook takes a3 is also strong, but bishop f4, I mean, and just realizing white is not going to be fast enough, right? Even queen f8 is possible, actually. But I think, I wonder what happened here, really. I wonder what happened here, because what's difficult for me to understand is after rook f8, now white could also play g4. I mean, what's the difference? Where's the advantage now for you that you have the rook on e8 instead of d8? I mean, just theoretically, white could do this as well. So I think what happened here was that you didn't calculate far enough, maybe, or stopped. Yeah, which is the same thing. Stopped the calculation too early. All right. stopped here and said, okay, bishop is coming to c5, and then you didn't keep looking how the line continues. All right, so let's keep going. Rook f8, a4, and now bishop a2. Yeah, that it looks odd to me. I mean, it just doesn't feel right. But I also looked at the position. It's not easy to. I mean, no apparent moves comes to mind. And I mean, maybe even now play rook ed8. I mean, of course, this feels probably very stupid, but maybe play this and still prepare d3. Of course, it's not as strong as if you could play it in one move, but still possible. The computer says bishop f8, and I can see what you're saying here with that you didn't consider because this is the defensive piece, and I agree with you. I mean, this is the best move, but it doesn't feel that natural. I mean, you have to be quite sure. These lines with takes, g4, the black is going to be fast enough, rook b4 with his attack. Yeah, I mean, this is not clear to me, so I can't really fault you for not playing this. Can't fault you here. But yeah, rook ed8, or you say also d3. d3 is also another move. But bishop a2, I mean, it looks odd. That was just my feeling. You don't want your bishop here. You want your queen here, right? Okay. So g4. Now queen c4. Bishop a3. Yeah, and I'm just noticing, I think I don't have anything to criticize anymore now from this point forward, so we can just enjoy the rest of the game, enjoy the variations, and just see what happens here. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys. So let's do this right now. I'm just going to check the chat again real quick to see what Kevin is saying. I didn't see rook b5, I don't know why. Okay, well, yeah, okay, well, good to know. Perhaps I saw it, then ignored due to a4 idea. Oh yeah, I mean, that's what you wrote in the comments about that. All right, so let's see what happened here. This is really nice. I haven't seen this before in any kind of game. Kevin played rook b3, which is really an unusual kind of setup. The bishop on a2, rook on b3, queen on c4, and with the very direct idea to just sacrifice the exchange. And here white cannot do anything against it, so white has to go for his own attack. Now rook takes, pawn takes, and rook b8, and it's indeed really a difficult position for white to play, and here white went wrong, played queen e1. The way to go would have been to play queen h2, and Kevin provided some very nice lines here. d3 is the way to go now, and it's really, I mean, it's on the edge for both sides. Both sides have to play accurate moves, and then, as always, the outcome is a draw. Well, not as always, but it feels so often in these highly tactical positions that's what happens. So let's see this. Rook d8, and now looks like the king is, well, not quite escaping, no. But yeah, I mean, the knight is defending enough squares, so all black can do is give her perpetual here. Yeah, okay. Well, some computer lines, and of course, really not easy to find after queen, or from here on forward anyway, to play like that. So white played queen e1, and now bishop f8, of course, get all pieces involved, invite all your pieces to a party. That's what my coach liked to say. Actually, it just reminds me of a story a friend of mine just told me the other day. He also took this saying, invite all your pieces to the party. I mean, kind of in a different way. He was coaching a very young student, and he always told him, how many people do you invite to your birthday party? And then usually a kid would say like 7 or 8. And then he would say, how many people are you inviting here? Right? Because he didn't play with all his pieces. And kind of to prompt him to get more pieces into a game. So then what my friend heard from the dad of the young talent was that when the next birthday party was coming up, he only wanted to invite 2 people. And the dad was surprised. So he asked his son, why do you only want to invite 2 people? And then he was like, well, so I can tell my coach next time he asks, I'm just inviting 2 people. Well, that was not really the intended training effect, I guess. But you get the idea. Bring all the pieces into a game. That's exactly what Kevin is doing here. So takes knight b2. Otherwise, king d2, bishop b4 check. So knight b2. And rook takes b2. And this is great. I mean, you spend now 20 minutes here calculating and making sure that you can escape with your king from the checks. And that tells me you had a great time management here. You had enough time still left, even though the position beforehand was already quite complicated. But you used your time wisely. Now you had it in the critical moment when really this is when it mattered. I mean, you had to decide, take with the bishop or take with the rook. One wins, one doesn't, and you found the right way. So this is great. Check, so check, and check, and check, and now king e6, and this just works out very nicely. I mean, just exactly, right? Just perfectly, king going to d7, and no check, I mean no useful check, at least for white. So now your opponent played rook d6. If he tries rook d8, king takes d8, queen h4 check, king c8, g8, queen, and now, okay, queen takes g8 wins, and that would be kind of the obvious win. But what is funny, and it's funny that you pointed out, king b7 is even better, because here after queen takes c4, rook b1 check, king d2, bishop takes c4, white cannot avoid checkmate in a few moves. But okay, I mean, no need to do this when there's queen takes g8 available, of course, and after rook h8, rook b1 check, king d2, check, check, checkmate. Nice, 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 nice. So in the game, white played rook d6, but this is just, I mean, pure desperation. And rook b5, discovered check, and game over. And you're right, I was very pleased with the results. Sadly, we only tied a team match. And now imagine, I just have to come back to this. Now imagine your opponent had accepted a draw in move 7. I mean, knowing what you know now, obviously that would have been a bummer, right? You would have missed this beautiful game and all that comes with it, the learning experiences and so on. So, you know, I'm really trying to make my case here against mostly draw offers, really, or rather making my case for fighting chess, playing, and always putting experience first, putting experience above elo points. Because what happens to all of us, we get so hung up on the rating, and yeah, my opponent has more rating, so I can opt for draw or whatever. But in the end, the rating comes by itself once you have the playing strength. I mean, it makes sense, right? But to get to a playing strength, you need to play. Okay, all right. So great game. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. There weren't too many things I could discuss, but I think I could still go into some things, especially with the draws, I guess. Yeah, so I couldn't really identify like a pattern of mistakes. I mean, the mistakes you made weren't of big magnitude anyway. I mean, there were no tactical errors as far as I could tell. I mean, there were some oversights. I think the two most critical points were, I mean, what really caught my eye maybe maybe not the most critical points, but really what stood out to me is for one the move h5 and for the other this move bishop h2. Both just feel unnatural to me. Maybe I would consider them, but I mean at least h5 I would probably not play. So this going maybe a little bit in the kind of positional strategic understanding, and this is something where you can work on, certainly. And then the other things, well, missing some of your opponent's moves, or I guess not calculating far enough, but that just happens to all of us in every single game, but it's always something to improve on, of course. And for that, what I'm going to try in my own games, I'm going to just try to ask myself, okay, what else can my opponent play? Just prompt the mind to do that. What am I missing? I mean, you know, in my last tournament, I played a game and I asked myself this question: what am I missing? Because I was like, am I not just winning here? And I played my move, and then I had missed the very next move of my opponent, even though he only had like 4 moves to react to my move. So I said, okay, well, this is ridiculous. I really need to do this better. Okay, so yeah, and otherwise, there's what is great for training these to be on the lookout is studies, because studies, what they do is there's just one solution. It's always usually involves like hidden resources for both sides. So for yourself, you have to find unusual moves, and you also often, if it's a good study, for your opponent, there's like a hidden defense yet to break, and then it's like one forced line. So I think studies are really great training tool, and I mean, really it doesn't matter where you get them from, honestly. I mean, similarly with mating compositions, mate compositions. So mate in 3, but composed. Composed, is that the right word? So where it's also like this strange sequence of moves, and it's not like how I usually have, where it's check, check, checkmate, but you have to play some quiet moves, and it's difficult, but it really trains your mind to look for all kinds of moves and consider them. All right, and it's also, well, I mean, studies especially is also great for calculation and going in depth. All right, let me check the chat if there was anything else that came up for you now that you're asking. Dirty Harry saying, God, that was corny. I don't know what he's referring to, but I'm sure I said many corny things during the stream. What is a good resource for studies? Yeah, I'm just going to send you something there. I mean, like I said, really it doesn't matter that much. You know, there are some famous composers like Trotsky. Yeah, I mean, I will send you something, but really you could get any study book, I'm sure, and that would be helpful. And I'm also gonna send you something regarding like positional understanding, even though I have to see what I can send you there. All right,